Sir?
Maysville, Mason County Comprehensive Plan Update Steering Committee will come to order. Roll call, please.
Deborah Cotter.
Yes, sir.
Victor McKay. Owen McNeil.
Yes, sir.
Chris O'Hearn. Casey Foster. Lori Ulrich. Rick Lawrence.
Yes, sir.
Tammy White.
Present.
Mark Cackler.
Here.
Danny Stewart.
Here.
Kirby Rosser.
Yes.
David Reed.
Here.
Tyler McHugh.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Yay!
Twice in a row.
Okay. First item is the minutes of the August 27th, 2024 special meeting and the June 24th, 2025 special meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those?
Move to approve them as presented.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, early business, we're not showing anything. New business, comprehensive plan, update, second draft. Allison, what do you have to say about that?
Done. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is good to see you all. George has, oh my God, that's the largest class I've ever seen. Okay, sorry, I was not expecting that. But George has sent around the second draft. It is not final. There are a few pieces that need just some additional data, just so that it's in the most current form. But I believe
Does it pay number?
it does have page numbers. That was a lynching last time. It does have page numbers. I believe, though, we are now in a position where the content is at a point where we are ready to potentially recommend this as the plan to send forward to the planning committee. The other thing that I have today, just a few copies, just because I was running out. When we met last time, I had suggested that it would be nice to have a document that was just a bit shorter, more for kind of the public perspective to see, like, what is it that we're trying to accomplish. And I had brought an example that was just one or two of the themes. I have brought the entire document with me tonight, knowing that there are a couple of figures that need to be replaced just with newer data. So I want to first publicly thank Rick for giving very comprehensive set of notes. And I've gone through just 3 pages of notes, and where possible, updated data so that it could be as current as possible, so that we are working in kind of today's facts. So that's it. There's nothing in the shorter document that has any content that's different than the longer document. It was something that I think might be a little bit more palpable for public-facing information. So as a refresher, in the comprehensive plan, we've got our 7 themes. The report is organized by first providing sort of an overview of the process, an overall community profile, and then we launch into each of the 7 themes. Within those themes, we talk about kind of the current context, and then we look at some secondary data that can be used to describe the current conditions, and then we review survey data, and then my takeaways from any of the public listening sessions that we did around those themes, followed by goals and objectives for each theme. The last piece that's number 10 there are all of repeated, but the goals, objectives, and then the implementation strategies that have been crafted and sort of observed by you all and approved. So beyond that, and then there's an appendix that has some additional info that sort of we use to back up some maps and some overview of the survey and who took the survey and all that good stuff. So I did not get, and I know I've gotten tonight a couple additional pieces of info that we can add, but nothing that would change any of the content, just some additional context described that I did not know, particularly around transportation. That's an area that I think I'm sort of the weakest in understanding the current projects in the county. So with that, I will open up, and I'm just going to shoot a couple of these down here so you guys can pass them around. You can.
So those are just examples of what
So
these
that's
things
what
would look like?
So the long document will stay long. That is the document that needs to be approved by the Planning Commission. That is what follows KRS statutes. The shorter document, I think, is the one that if I was a member of this community, I would go to because it's just succinct. It doesn't have a ton of narrative, but it tells us, what do we know and what we plan to do. So both of those are part of the
There are changes to the short documents.
only that we finished through all the themes. Last time I brought them, we had only gone through 1 and 2 just to see if it was a style that you all thought was useful. And the last meeting said, yes, this is a nice sort of additional product to have. There are a couple of figures in there that need to be updated based on some of the comments Rick made that I was not able to get to my communications person in time, but they will be replaced with all the figures that are in the larger plan. The appendix, I think last time one of the biggest pieces was around, the biggest concern in the content piece around last time was the housing. And that turned out that it was, the data that were reported were actually for over a period of years and included properties that were both vacant and properties that were improved. And so we updated those data and did, I think, a much better job of clearly delineating what it was we were capturing. And for us, most meaningfully is what is the status of the housing market if people are trying to purchase property. So I think that has been fixed, and we did it just for 1 year, so that it was, January 1st, December 31st of 2024. But other than that, there wasn't a lot for me to adjust. The housing part was the biggest in terms of content. And other than that, thank you again, Rick, for giving some very great comments on additional pieces that I updated. So with that, George is left.
You mentioned a document, like a I interpreted it to be a supplement.
Rick's got his hands.
And I think you said it shows what we know and where we're going to go.
Right, so it doesn't.
Or what we're going to do.
Yes. So the way this supplementary document was created, which does not meet KRS statutes, right? But this is just more for if people don't want to go through 150 pages worth of plan. This is more of, here is what I did was try to pick 1 or 2 tables that describe the current condition, and then we summarized in 1 or 2 figures what the community said both through the survey and through the listening sessions, and then we provided the list of goals, objectives, and strategies that were created based on those other 3 pieces. So there's nothing new in the shorter document. It is just meant for someone who does not want to read through a really long narrative. Yeah.
So there's an awful lot of information in the document,
Yes.
as we would all expect. And one of the pieces in there is a projection that we're going to continue to lose population on into like 2050.
Yes.
So do we have anything in this short version or in the full version that addresses that by itself?
So in the land use.
Or are we gonna just let that happen, or are we gonna try to turn it?
I think, the land use section directly addresses that there is a projected decline in population. I think the 6 other themes indirectly try to identify strategies that will both retain the population that may have been leaving, as well as to attract new folks. So I think in all of our discussions, it was housing for sure, because we brought up that projected household decline. That was a big part of the housing discussion, so it does make its way into the housing theme. It does make its way into economic development and I think community facilities. So that was a big part of the conversation was, this is the elephant in the room. We expect that population is expected to go down in this county. What are some community facilities, whether it's services for seniors or services for youth, services for young families, that the county could think about to attract and retain this population? Housing was another one. We know folks were working in Mason County but living elsewhere, but could live in Mason County if the appropriate housing was available. So again, another way to talk about how do we affect that population. The land use in terms of like where do we develop, given the fact we don't expect population increases, was also sort of like there wasn't a lot of discussion around we have new development ideas per se. So it was a big part of the conversation, and I think it was addressed in several of those themes. But it is, I mean, I think in Rick's comments to me as well, it was like, holy cow, like, what are we going to do? And I think the strategies that were created were designed to address that in many instances.
So if we compare ourselves to some of the other communities that you've done this for, do we have a similar ratio of industrial zoned property to total property or residential property to total property? Do we have, or do we need to address those kind of things in our planning and zoning?
That's a good question. Residential side, I think, yes. Industrial side, I'm not sure that analysis has been complete. That could be a strategy to say, are we on par with other comparable places for having, you know, these different land uses per capita? So I think that would be a strategy. I don't think we know it per se right now, but that could be something that could be added.
I mean, that's a good point. So who is the keeper? Is it CEDIC? I mean, who is the keeper of what those demographics are per capita?
We provided what we thought was useful, but we are happy to see what else we can do to describe the situation. When I have done, you know, I consider you all fairly similar to some of the nearby communities, like a Bourbon County, which is on the cusp of, could be a potentially high growth place, but is dealing with this clash of land use discussions, where they have a potential industry, they've got potential folks who could live there. Cynthiana is another one where you're just sort of like, you know, right on the edge. I mean, you're certainly not an urban place. You're certainly not a low income rural community like we work in, you know, further east of here. So we could try to add some additional data about, you know, what are some of our peer places look like and how do we compare, if that's useful.
I think the bottom line for all of this is once this is done, it's a living, working thing, and it's up to the leadership in this community to make sure that it's not stuck on a shelf, that it's used. And even at that point, if there's additional data, there's no reason we can't go out, like on a particular subject here, like housing. There was lots of comments made about setbacks and ordinances and planning and zoning rules. And this plan doesn't solve all of those, but it opens the door for, folks to sit at a table. And so I think, the judge and I and the commissioners and even planning and zoning, we have a responsibility to make sure that something happens from this work and that it just doesn't sit. So it's a lot of responsibility for all of us as well.
And keep in mind, it's a update every year, a rewrite every 5 years.
Well, it's fluid and it's evolving as the economy and things change. We've just got to stay on top of it and evolve with it and make sure that we stay up in a competitive nature.
I mean, one of the things that has been interesting is that COVID shifted a lot of population projections. And the entities that are projecting that Mason County is expected to lose population are using data, using their sort of, how do I make this before COVID, right? Well, we have heard anecdotally that folks are looking at Mason County and similar type places as their homes just because this is the new, sort of way of people wanting to live. So as those new projections start living, and maybe that Mason County's population projection is not expected to decline, it could be that given this kind of shift in lifestyle preferences, maybe it's actually projected to increase, and now you're attracting, older folks or, young families or whatever it may be. So keeping an eye on that, I think, and of course, as the mayor said, like we're always happy, every year to say, here's what's happening, based on the most current information. But I think you're right in that this is a place, it just starts a conversation. Here's what we hope to accomplish, and there's always opportunities to collect more data to say how do we proceed. But I still don't think those population projections have fully incorporated the systemic shift from COVID.
The current comprehensive plan, I think, used a source that forecasted our population to grow, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And in fact, it reversed itself.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any, there's a whole lot of things that are going to happen between now and 2050, and we all know that. But the piece that I would be curious about is if we are to grow, and if you look at our numbers in terms of Mason County versus Kentucky or Mason County versus the U.S. in terms of income, in terms of level of education and things, we're below state and national averages, and we have been. In order to change that, we would have to basically bring in a volume of people that are educated, and that, if that's medical or if that's industrial, do we have enough properties to recruit that size of a workforce that, thinking back to power plant time, thinking back to paper mill time, thinking back to some of the other tools and trades that have come in here, we brought people into this community, and the population went up, and the average earnings went up. Do we do that again? And do we have the size of industrial zone areas to fit them into?
One of the things that we did during the economic development kind of listening session, Data Interactive, is that was one of the proposed areas is what if the county was able to attract or grow its, a sizable project? What would that mean? Do we have the workforce? Do we have the housing for the workforce? Do we have, the infrastructure to support the houses? Do we have the education system, healthcare system, all that stuff? So a very important question. And when we Mason,
the Georgetown.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's really, it's hard, in Bourbon County, which is an area that has very similar trends, like projecting, little to negative growth. It's hard, and I did a housing demand study for them, and it's sort of hard to say, right now you have, no need for new housing because you have a projected decline. You might need some renovated housing or some, replacement housing. But what if? Like, what if folks who were living in Lexington said, I can't afford to live here anymore? Or my wife or husband works in Bourbon County, we want to be in a more. So you have to do some of those what if situations. And if you have a couple and you're like, no matter what if we present, we are not ready, then that's an opportunity to say, what do we do? Like if you said we have a plan for, 1,000 employees, think about E-Town with the blue oval. I mean, they had this opportunity come. They did not have any of the necessary infrastructure, and it's a great opportunity, but they are scrambling hard to do that. But it's hard to do with the cart before the horse. But to know, given different possibilities, where would you all land in terms of readiness, I think is a fair question.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
In comparison. Yeah.
But we've got to stay on top of the real-time effort and opportunities because in almost all of our cases, as we're doing this, we're using 23, 24 data. We're in 25, and things are changing quickly, and it is 25, so we've got to be in a position to address that
Yes.
on a real-time basis.
Super real time. Yeah, I mean, that's why this plan, I very much appreciate secondary data, but it will always be a year or two behind. And, COVID happened, you're just like, this is useless to us right now. So you have to rely on the ground, what is going on, what do our folks know, do the best we can with this information, because it will always be lagged.
So, Allison, how do you see next steps on this?
So I would like, and when I talked to George earlier before, I would prefer this be my last trip up here for this presentation to whoever's needed. But I would like to welcome friendly amendments that aren't changing the content or the direction of the plan, but are just additional data points or information, updated, transportation projects and whatnot. And I would love this committee, since we've seen this over time, to say this is the plan for right now, and this is something we're ready to move forward, knowing that there are things change and there are updates later on and so forth. But I'm going to turn it over to our planning guy.
Well, 2 weeks from tomorrow, we have a planning commission meeting. The next step would be that they take a look at it and feel satisfied enough with it that they pass a motion to hold a public hearing over it during one of the meetings. So if you all are satisfied with this, there might be some small tweaks in there. I recently got a new computer, and Esri's not working, the licensing's not working, but I want to update some of the maps in it, because they're kind of old pictures of our map. But otherwise, those are small things. The next step would be to recommend something to the planning commission so that they can take a look and hold a public hearing.
If they make recommendations, will they bring them back to us to discuss, or they will accept our?
I mean, if there are any significant issues, especially that come out during the public hearing, then there will need to be some sort of relatively short revision process.
Or would they do that themselves, right? Or,
The steering
We would
committee's
have to
job
approve it.
was just to get it to this point and then to send it to planning and zoning. And they're the ones that have to prove it, change it, whatever they feel necessary.
Okay.
And they could decide to send it back to y'all. But that would be, the soonest timeline would be they take a look at it. You all are satisfied, I would send a copy to them, probably tomorrow, so they'd have a good 2 weeks to look at it. And then hopefully pass a motion saying, okay, let's have a public hearing on this. And then that would be at the next meeting, the September meeting.
yeah, there's gonna be the next question, like, do you see them getting it before the meeting on the 22nd?
Yes, so the meeting is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Okay.
So, yeah,
If we had our abilities, I would love to get all the information. I can even send you like the Word document so you can put in, but I will incorporate like the transportation piece. Matt sent me something this morning about like the transit use. I'd like to spend an hour and a half fixing up whatever issues arise right now, and then send it on for them to review, so that it's as, in near perfect, condition, so there won't be any sort of additional friendly amendments as time goes on.
Right. I can't get the maps done because I don't have Edgewood. That's a minor issue.
So, but you'd have time to do the maps between
Yeah.
their meeting
And
and the public.
it wouldn't make much of a difference. It would just make the maps look a little bit better. Sorry.
So the JPC makes little edits, things like that, but then approves it, likes it, whatever, incorporates even their open meeting comments, then it would go back to you, Allison, for finalization, glossification, I guess, whatever.
Maybe. It's kind of up in the air as to how the JPC is handling it. They could send it back. They could say it's perfect as it is. They could say these need to be changed. Here are the issues. And of course, it's a public hearing, so the public could come in and the planning commission would have to decide what to do with the comments they get from the public.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of a wild card as to what would happen during and after that public hearing, but it would be up to them to decide the process moving forward. And once it gets to a final phase, then it would go to the fiscal court and the city for adoption.
So, there's no need for future meetings
Unless
as far as we know.
unless they come back and say the steering committee needs to come back and go over, completely redo this theme or add a different area that wasn't addressed. But in theory, correct.
But I would think that would be material changes to the document, not fine tuning.
Correct. Fine tuning, I feel like, I'm happy to do, and I'm sure we'll keep everyone apprised and say, here's the final.
Material changes, and we kick it back to.
Yes.
I mean, there could be a little bit of fine tuning that's done, that can be done after the meeting, and then it's contingent upon that being done, it could then go to.
Right.
Well, I would say that the fine tuning is just like the 5-year updates. That doesn't go anywhere beyond the planning committee. There is no organization like this one that has any involvement with doing the
So
that all the 5-year update is a fine tuning in most cases.
Yeah. It's up to you guys if you want the public review.
As you envision this process, when the Joint Planning Commission votes to have public hearings, will there be a document, this is what we're having hearings on?
Oh, yeah, because the public needs to see it. Yeah.
All right.
So there might be
So the fine tuning per se has got to be done before Joint Planning Commission decides to have a public hearing.
yeah, so what we have, generally. But I mean, the document might change a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get the maps done, but that's a small change. But anything that the planning commission will be deciding will be posted for the public to see. The public will have a month to look at it, digest it.
Maps can make a big difference.
Not really. It might be just a pretty or something. There's a very crude zoning
Yeah,
map
it's
in
pretty ugly.
this, and I'm going
Very
to,
pixelated.
I'm gonna
You
take
can't
the,
see what the different, yeah.
so I'm gonna take the shape file. Actually, I think I've already made a map. I made it here a couple of meetings ago, actually, last year. So, it's not gonna make it, it's the zone.
Well, that was my question.
I might actually already have,
You want to send it to me, the files, since I have every, I can do it, but.
I think you already have the files. It's just, I made some really nice maps using the shape files for my,
Okay.
but I can't open them.
Esri does suck, okay.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, George. Kevin Wells, the area developer,
Oh, I think I can get Sean George or somebody from his office just to come down and fix it. That's what had to happen last time. It's just, it was broken when they upgraded my PC.
Okay.
It shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Nothing.
So we have a path forward. We know where we're going in terms of the next step.
Assuming you guys pass a motion tonight saying, hey, listen.
Is that all we need to do to satisfy this?
I do want to make sure, because so two big changes I see, and by big I mean they're still pretty small, that I need to add are just updated transit users, which I don't think is going, it is what it is. What types of riders use the bus and so forth. And then the judge just gave me some updated notes on the transportation theme. I just talked about, is there anything in there that you feel like needs to be discussed? Because that's the one that they haven't seen.
No, we talk about ambitions from London Mason Airport, the updates that have occurred out there. We talk about the Maysville, Mason County River Force. We're receiving a grant, $750,000 for equipment. We talk about, you had most of the data from the state SHIFT projects, which is infrastructure planning, highway planning, stuff like that. And how city and county funnel into a more regional process for rating the projects for better.
Yeah, so it is more, I only had access to the information on the shift stuff, and so the judge provided information both from the city in terms of the FLAP and TAC grants, and then information on investments in the airport. So it's more of describing the current contracts, nothing around, any differences in, goals and objectives.
Correct.
Yeah.
So when you said who, are you talking about the bus system or the highway system?
Well, originally, so Matt sent me stuff on the bus system that needs to be updated. He sent me this morning. The judge did stuff on airport, rail, and other highway road projects. Port projects, yeah. So again, just so we know, this is information I will, and again, I'm assuming George will email out tomorrow the final copy that he will then submit to planning. But it'll just be these friendly amendments of this additional data, nothing else edited. But I don't think, Tyler. What did you say?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say before that?
It's called.
I whispered yes, ma'am.
Okay. I sent you an email, I think you were out of town, the list of the top employers. I got that from our federal source, and may not be perfect. I know, but it just seems odd.
It's relatively close,
Okay.
give or take on each one.
Okay. All right. So it's not terrible. So we can probably, even if we had to address that one later, it didn't cause you anxiety when you saw it.
No, I actually looked it up and I saw the exact same chart.
Okay. All right.
We're talking about fine tuning, not materials.
Right. Yeah. So that's all I plan on changing. Because what goes in front of the planning commission is not the shorter document. I mean, I think it can be, but it's not. So we will also change out those figures that are in this newer version to look in there. So other than that, I've got nothing else to change.
You think you can get this out by end of business?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
I'll do it.
Outside of the map.
Yeah, I'll do it tonight.
That'll give us a good 2 weeks to study before we get back in.
We give you.
Yeah. That's enough time for you all.
You got it.
Who, are you both on the planning commission? So there's a, you're not?
So, and David and Kirby.
Okay.
So is everybody on this steering committee satisfied with all the work we've got now with Dr. Davis and her team?
How many trips is it down here?
A lot.
We bought property up here.
I do have a seat at,
Did you?
I have a seat at the Chase.
Go on, one more citizen.
That's right, population plus one.
Didn't hear anyone say no.
Right.
Will someone make a motion that we advance this future comprehensive plan to the joint planning and zoning committee for?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion that we.
Thank you. Mayor, you second? All in favor?
Can I say Yahoo?
Can I say Yahoo? All right.
Pleasure, y'all. Just kidding.
Okay, so unless we hear back from the Planning and Zoning Commission, this steering team has satisfied all its obligations, and well, we've been on this 2 years or so. October 2022.
Was it?
Almost over 2022.
Long time, job well done, everyone's efforts greatly appreciated, particularly yours, Dr. Davis.
I am turning 50 this week.
We're gonna make you a cake.
This is my crowning achievement of my 50th year. Uh-huh.
I would like to add my thanks to all the committee, for the work that you put in with the subcommittees on each of the topics, as well as reviewing and the discussions that we had, sometimes with some give and take, but I really appreciate everybody's time, the work, and just the willingness to serve on the committee and get this where it needs to be. Thank you.
I concur. Well done. Well done. The
Thank
public
you all.
presentations, and also all the facilities that
Oh, yes.
allowed us to use their facilities
Yes.
for the public input session.
100%. Fire and
So, motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have one question after the vote. May the public ask a question after the vote?
Well, after the vote, the meeting will be over, so,
Then may I ask one question before the vote?
you guys.
Ask.
The LUMO process, can you outline the steps for developing the LUMO and approving it in the public hearing, if there will be a public hearing for that?
So you mean zoning? So, that's a text amendment, and that goes through the same public hearing process that a zoning change would be. The only entities that can recommend such a change is either the planning commission or the city or county. But otherwise, it requires a public hearing, and there's notice in the paper 1 to 3 weeks in advance.
What was the question?
The process for amending the land use management ordinance, which is applicable zoning.
Well, I think it was the LUMO.
Ordinance.
Oh,
Clunky name for zoning code.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Who's the second?
We're adjourned.
Everybody, Tamara will be on the record.
Never.